Meanwhile, the war of words between China and Japan is also escalating. It is playing out on two fronts. The first, as I said, is the Senkaku Islands. It's a string of uninhabited islands that are claimed by both Beijing and Tokyo. China's provocations have not ended there. Japan is determined to stop them. The second front is the Fukushima nuclear plant, the one that saw a disaster in 2011. Japan has decided to release radioactive water, treated radioactive water, from the plant into the ocean. American allies like Taiwan and South Korea are vehemently opposing it. And China sees this as an opportunity to further its own agenda. It's a rather complex story, and we've simplified it in our next report for you.
This is the East China Sea. China stakes claim to a string of uninhabited islands here, they call the Diaoyu Islands. And Japan stakes claim to a string of uninhabited islands they call the Senkaku Islands. The problem is, these are the exact same islands. In 1968, Japan established a defense identification zone over these islands, an extra buffer of sorts, to safeguard its territorial sovereignty. In 2013, China declared its own defense identification zone. It overlaps Japan's. China uses this zone to justify its expansionism. Under Chinese rules, any aircraft or vessel entering the zone must notify Beijing. Beijing's military adventurism worsened with the pandemic. In March 2020, China's maritime militia damaged a Japanese naval ship. In July 2020, Chinese vessels entered Japan's zone for the longest duration since 2012. In September 2020, Chinese boats collided with Japanese patrolling vessels. In October 2020, the Chinese Navy forced Japanese fishing boats to leave the area. And just last month, two Chinese ships again carried out an illegal intrusion near the Senkaku Islands. The provocations are endless. There are growing concerns that China could step up armament and establish a military base on the islands. Adding to these concerns is China's Coast Guard law, which came into force on February 1st. The law encourages China's Coast Guard to take all necessary measures, including the use of weapons, to stop the violation and eliminate the danger. With this law, Xi Jinping has told his Coast Guard to be wolf warriors at sea and use force, lethal force, to assert Chinese interests. Japan, along with the US, has expressed concerns over the law. As Yoshihide Suga heads to Washington on Friday, Chinese aggression, the new Coast Guard law, and the Senkaku Islands will all top the agenda.
This will be our first in-person visit from a foreign leader in the Biden-Harris administration, reflecting the importance we place on our bilateral relationship with Japan and our friendship and partnership with the Japanese people.
The talks might also feature a controversial topic: Japan's plan to release radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean. Washington has backed Tokyo, saying the release will be in accordance with nuclear safety standards. But American partners like South Korea and Taiwan are strongly opposing Japan's plan. Both nations, with coastlines nearby, say the move poses a risk to the marine environment. China is trying to make the most of this disagreement between the three democracies. Beijing is calling Japan irresponsible, its own environmental recklessness notwithstanding.
Yesterday, the China-South Korea Maritime Affairs Dialogue and Mechanism held its first meeting. Both sides urged Japan to carefully and cautiously handle the Fukushima nuclear wastewater issue after ample consultation with international mechanisms and surrounding countries. This approach is extremely irresponsible and will seriously damage international public health and safety and the vital interests of the people of neighboring countries.
The timing of this war of words is significant. The US climate envoy John Kerry is in Shanghai to discuss climate action. By all means, China will use Japan's Fukushima water release plan as a bargaining chip in the negotiations. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.